Something snapped on live TV and the world saw it happen. Kamala Harris, once the Democrats' safety net, once their symbol of strength, just melted down trying to defend Joe Biden after his humiliating debate collapse. And folks, it was painful to watch. I mean, this wasn't politics as usual. This was an unfiltered moment of panic, confusion, and silence. This is the kind of silence that it tells the truth louder than words ever could. The mask slipped, the facade cracked, and the entire woke machine, the identity-driven empire that the left built on image instead of integrity, it began to crumble right there on camera, guys. Because when one reporter, one single journalist dared to ask Kamala Harris about Biden's frailty or his frail state of mind, something broke inside of her. I mean, you could see it. The eyes, the hesitation, the desperate attempt to pivot. She wasn't defending Biden anymore. She was actually defending a lie that's finally catching up with her. Now, tonight, I want to go ahead and break it all down for you. Every uncomfortable second, every unanswered question, every sign that the woke leadership model just imploded under its own hypocrisy. So buckle up, guys, because this isn't just about one failed interview. No, this is about the moment that the left's illusion of competence collapsed and America finally saw the truth that they've been hiding since the very beginning. Now, this is the interview that ended that entire charade. Hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, folks, I want to set the stage real quick, okay? It's October 2025. Donald J. Trump sits in the Oval Office once again, rebuilding a country that has finally said enough. But today, all eyes are now on Kamala Harris because something snapped. Something really odd and bizarre snapped inside of Kamala Harris. During that viral interview, cameras caught what no staff member could contain: panic. Her voice quivered, her tone cracked, and for the first time, she couldn't even hide behind that practice laugh. The cackle, drop a cackle if you know what I'm talking about, right? A staffer tried to cut the feed. Reporters refused. Okay. And the silence that followed, it felt heavier than words, really. I mean, this was the moment that the mask broke. It wasn't just an interview, guys. This was a collapse. It was live. It was on air where excuses could not save her. And the Democratic facade, it began to just crumble right before the world's eyes. Now, have you noticed how unpredictable everything feels right now? The markets, the Fed, even your job. Let me ask you something honest. If your savings were cut in half tomorrow, how long would it take for you to recover from that? That single question right there has led thousands of Americans to call Noble Gold investments because deep down, they already know the answer and it doesn't feel good, right? This is exactly why I partnered with Noble Gold Investments, because they don't pressure you or push products. They help you to discover what you already want, real protection for your money. So when people see how simple it is to own physical gold or silver in their retirement plan, they almost always say, well, that makes sense. Maybe this is why so many people are already calling Noble Gold at 877-646-5347, and they're downloading their free wealth protection kit at ronyatesgold.com. I left a link for you guys down in the description down below, as well as the phone number, because when the system feels unstable, protecting your future, it just makes sense. Now, to really understand her unraveling, we have to revisit the night that doomed it all. Joe Biden's final 2024 debate. He froze mid-sentence, stumbled through numbers, and stared blankly at the audience while moderators waited in agony. Like, what's wrong with this guy? Did he just pause? Did he freeze? The nation watched a sitting president lose his grip on the moment. His own party lost its nerve. In fact, that single night ripped the lid off of years of denial. They promised strength. America saw how frail he is. They'd promised leadership. America saw confusion. Even loyal journalists were whispering afterwards, we can't hide this anymore. And so, of course, Kamala Harris was sent out to patch a ship that had already sunk. Because if Joe Biden's decline could no longer be disguised, the entire narrative that propped him up, it was ready to go down right along with him. And so right after that catastrophic debate, Kamala Harris was dispatched on what insiders quietly called Operation Reassure. Now, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but she was supposed to calm the storm and restore confidence in the Biden legacy. But every interview only made it worse. Armed with rehearsed talking points, she faced real reporters who weren't playing the old media game. And when Australian journalist Sarah Ferguson pressed her about Biden's cognitive state, Kamala froze. I mean, her usual word salad routine, it spun out of control, sentences looping, logic breaking. Viewers saw a politician malfunctioning under pressure. I mean, she wasn't defending Biden anymore. She was defending an illusion. Even allies winced as her forced smile faltered and her tone turned brittle. It got bad. In fact, damage control mission didn't restore order. It detonated it, exposing the fragility of everything that the left had built around image instead of truth. And so then came the the flashpoint heard around the world. Sarah Ferguson interrupted mid-sentence and said, "That was a world-class pivot, but not the question that I asked you." Oh my God, the audience gasped. Now, for once, a journalist refused to play defense for the Democrats. Kamala Harris blinked rapidly, stalled, searched for words that never came. That single moment right there symbolized the collapse of media production. Now, for years, guys, the reporters in Washington, they carried the water. Not this time, though. A crack of honesty from the foreign press exposed everything. Kamala Harris's fear of speaking truth about Biden, the party's dependency on scripted answers, and even the sudden realization that the global press was now doing the job that America's legacy media had abandoned. The spell broke, the armor shattered, and the whole world saw panic, not leadership. And so Kamala Harris's meltdown, it wasn't just a bad interview. This was a systemic failure. It really was. I mean, like, what you saw that night was the woke machine short-circuiting on live television. Now, for years, the left had built their power structure around identity instead of integrity, essentially promoting people for what boxes that they checked instead of what results they produced. And when real pressure hit, it all collapsed. The Democratic Party created an environment where failure was protected and truth was punished. And Kamala Harris, the poster child of that system, was left standing in the wreckage. Her meltdown wasn't a surprise. This was inevitable. The woke machine can only run on illusion for so long before reality crashes in. Now, most people, they believe the myth that once you choose a Medicare plan, you're stuck with it forever. But that's not true. But insurance companies, they want you to think that it is. This is why I partnered with Chapter. They show you that Medicare isn't one and done. This is something that you can improve year after year. Now, one of our viewers, she said, "I didn't even know I had options until Chapter explained it. Now, my Medicare plan actually fits my life." So let me ask, are you still buying into that myth, or will you do what most people already are and finding out the truth? Now, most people are calling the phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. Oh, and check out this comment from one of our viewers who already called, right? So Jamie Tapp, she said, "Ron, thanks for helping us, my mom and me, find Chapter. Janice was extremely helpful and saved us a mint." I absolutely love it. Now, if you haven't already, don't wait. Medicare decisions can change your future, and Chapter is making sure it changes for the better. Now, let's be honest, guys. Kamala Harris's collapse, it would have stayed buried if the media hadn't lost control of the narrative. Now, for years, mainstream news outlets acted like her personal cleanup crew, spinning every gaffe into a misunderstanding and burying every embarrassing clip. But when the footage went viral globally, they couldn't contain it anymore. Suddenly, journalists who had spent years defending her, they started walking it back. "Maybe we went too easy." This is what they whispered, but it was too late, of course. The cover-up cracked open like glass, and people saw how deep the protection racket ran. This was the first time in modern history that the media's loyalty backfired on them. They built Kamala's pedestal, and now they're stuck cleaning up the rubble from the fall that they helped to create. So while Kamala Harris's words fell apart on camera, America was waking up to something undeniable: results. Under Biden, inflation soared. Gas hit $5 a gallon. Families chose between groceries and rent. But under President Trump, within months of taking office in 2025, markets stabilized, fuel prices dropped, and confidence returned. That contrast burned like a brand in voters' minds. I mean, the same people who were preaching compassion created chaos. The man that they demonized delivered relief. And as Kamala Harris tried to sell the fantasy that Biden's policies worked, ordinary Americans, they looked around and they saw reality for themselves. President Trump's America was back on its feet. Their America was built on hashtags and victimhood. One side produced headlines and the other side produced hope. And the biggest difference, the difference couldn't be hidden anymore. Then came the Fox News interview, her so-called comeback, right? It was supposed to prove that she could lead, but instead it confirmed every doubt about Kamala Harris. So even when asked about the border crisis, she dodged it. On Iran, she deflected. On Biden's decline, she froze. Every question chipped away at the illusion. Her tone wavered, her eyes darted to staffers just off camera. Every answer sounded rehearsed. Every pivot was desperate, guys. I mean, commentators called it the most painful 10 minutes of her career. Even sympathetic networks clipped the footage and ran it dry. But by the end, Kamala Harris wasn't sparring with Fox. She was battling the truth. Each light on that set felt like an interrogation lamp. The performance that was meant to rebuild her image ended up burning it to ash. Now, for years, Kamala Harris's political armor, it wasn't built on achievement. It was built on accusation. "You can't question me," she would imply, right? Or, "You're sexist. You're a racist." But that shield finally cracked, because when the facts hit, identity identity can't save incompetence. It just can't. Americans are tired of being bullied into silence while their leaders fail upward. Even sympathetic outlets started whispering, merit still matters. The meltdown made that truth unavoidable. It just exposed exactly what happens when leadership becomes a diversity project instead of a duty. Now, as Kamala Harris stumbled through her excuses, millions of viewers saw the collapse of a narrative that representation is more important than results. Now, America didn't watch a woman fall apart. It watched an entire ideology face accountability for the very first time. In fact, the damage, it wasn't confined to American screens. Across the world, foreign journalists, they were stunned, not by the questions, but by the answers. We saw leaders in Europe and Asia reportedly watching Kamala Harris's interview in disbelief. Now, for them, this wasn't about politics. This was a cautionary tale of decay. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, America looked weak. It looked distracted and divided. But under President Trump, that perception flipped overnight. Trade partners reopened talks, adversaries paused aggression, and allies privately admitted that they respected strength again. Sarah Ferguson's bluntness became symbolic, the world finally saying what the U.S. media refused to. The Biden-Harris era didn't just erode domestic trust, it fractured America's global credibility. And Kamala Harris's televised breakdown pretty much sealed it. The world saw what Washington tried to hide. And of course, inside the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris's meltdown set off shockwaves. Staffers went silent, donors panicked, and strategists scrambled to distance themselves from the wreckage. But the DNC's internal charts leaked within hours. Talks of rebranding, fresh faces, and quiet retirements. Some people gonna get forced out. That's right. Even those who once worshipped the woke gospel began whispering that the brand was toxic. Resignations trickled in, consultants ghosted their clients, and fundraisers dried up overnight. The party that claimed to champion transparency was suddenly hiding behind locked doors and private servers. The truth is, guys, they built the woke machine, and now they're trapped inside of it. Every pivot, every cover-up, every sanctimonious tweet came crashing down in a single trembling interview. Kamala Harris's collapse didn't just end her credibility, it ignited a rebellion within her own ranks. So meanwhile, across the aisle, President Donald J. Trump stands as the living contrast. His return in 2025 wasn't just political, it was poetic. Think about it, right? Like, while Kamala Harris flailed under these softball questions, President Trump dismantled bureaucracy, rebuilt trade, and restored America's backbone. His administration moved on merit, not identity, on performance, not pandering. Now, for the first time in years, ordinary Americans, they felt represented, not preached to. The same pundits who mocked America first now quietly benefit from it. I mean, Kamala Harris's implosion, it became President Trump's exclamation point, the living proof of what happens when symbolism replaces skill. This is what a return to reality really looks like. Competence over quotas, results over rhetoric. So while the left held panels, Trump rebuilt the nation. This contrast here that we're talking about, that we're describing, this couldn't be any clearer or any more humiliating for them. Now, of course, the internet exploded within minutes. Clips of Kamala Harris's meltdown flooded every platform: Twitter, Truth Social, YouTube, Rumble, X. I mean, at first, some viewers felt sympathy. It looked like a human moment. But of course, as the replays rolled, the sympathy turned into shock. Like, people realized that they weren't watching exhaustion. They were watching exposure. Comedians pounced, analysts dissected, and even a few Democrats quietly admitted, oh, it's over. Hashtags like hashtag Kamala collapse and hashtag word salad meltdown trended for days. Now, what began as an attempt to defend Joe Biden became a global indictment of the entire movement that enabled him. One viewer summed it up perfectly. They said, this wasn't an interview. This was a confession. Millions didn't just see weakness. They just saw the end of a narrative. And once that curtain lifted, guys, oh, there was no going back. So what makes this moment historic isn't just politics. It's the psychology behind it. I mean, the left built this fantasy where weakness was virtue and emotion replaced evidence. But when Kamala Harris cracked on camera, that illusion shattered. The constant spin, the rehearsed lines, the deflections, they all collided with reality in real time. Voters felt it. I felt it. Did y'all feel it? I mean, the unease, the silence, the panic that was hiding behind her smile. Now, for years, they told Americans that dissent was hate, that doubt was disinformation. But one honest question from a reporter broke that spell. Suddenly, even their supporters couldn't even pretend anymore. The myth of moral superiority collapsed under the weight of one undeniable truth. Competence still matters. The meltdown wasn't just televised embarrassment. It was the psychological breaking point of the entire woke narrative. So here we are, guys, October 2025, the day that marks more more than just Kamala Harris's unraveling. It marks the burial of an era that was built on deception. In fact, her breakdown wasn't simply a political failure. It was cultural closure. America has turned the page. The people who once demanded obedience now face accountability. The woke machine didn't just malfunction. It collapsed under its own hypocrisy. Now, for years, they sold us moral superiority wrapped in incompetence, and now the results are undeniable. Under President Trump, strength has returned, confidence has returned, and the truth has returned. Kamala Harris's meltdown will be remembered not as isolated embarrassments here and there, but as the final scream of a movement that lost control of reality. The era of excuses, it's over.